Hello guys, it's Michael and Josh here from Mango and welcome to this video. So yeah, today some pretty exciting things came out on the Runescape homepage, and basically it is this new thing called Legacy Mode. If you haven't it or read the post yet, there'll be a link down in the description to it. It is so awesome, so really guys, go check it out because it is really interesting, and it's detailing all the new updates that's going to be coming in to do this legacy mode, and we're basically going to be talking about it and reviewing it, aren't we?
Yeah. One thing we always forget to do with these videos is this will be fairly long, so it's best to just sort of listen to this while you play RuneScape. We always say this at the end, which is kind of pointless, since like it's the end of the video. But yeah, got that out now. So legacy mode. When I saw this on the homepage, I kind of just like cried a bit. No, but it does look awesome. Like it really does. Well, like for me, I really do prefer pre-EOC over EOC, and you're kind of like a bit of both, really.
I'd like the idea of going back and doing EOC, like bossing and no, not bossing, PvP, like wilderness and stuff.
Yeah,
but I do still want to do EOC bossing. Like next, it's just a bit more, in my opinion, a bit better. It's just opinion really.
Yeah. But yeah, so legacy mode. Basically, what it is it's bringing a lot of pre-EOC back into the evolution of combat, but as a sort of separate mode, I guess. They're kind of going to be running on the same server, but you can switch between legacy and EOC whenever you want. So you can just play both without. So it doesn't split the community at all, and it's both run on the same server, so there's no separate worlds or anything like that.
It's kind of cool the fact that you'll be able to like switch it like for different things. So like you could go for a next kill and use EOC abilities, and then teleport to Edgefield, and then be able to switch. I'm not sure if there'll be like some sort of cooldown time where you have to like. I'm not even sure how they're going to do it, but it'll be cool just to like switch, and then you can go into the wildy, and hopefully it'll really just bring back the wilderness community into the game. That'd be quite cool.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll leave a link to these developer blogs in the description as well. But I think the main thing we can go over is the FAQ.
Yeah.
There's a fairly long list here of stuff, but it all looks really good. I mean, no one quite knows how it's going to work at the moment. Even Jagex don't really have that many ideas. But it is all going to be like player driven, really. There's going to be loads of polls in it, loads of player feedback, and it's only going to be released when like everyone is happy with how it is.
Because like if you guys should really go and actually vote for what you want, so you can do that in game. And the fact is, it says ETA summer on it, but we know it won't be in by summer. I don't think it'll be ready by summer. That's just too soon, really.
Probably
but they will release it when it is ready, and Jagex feel like the community has been like fully listened to, basically, because that's really what they're going for this year, which is surprising because they don't normally listen. But I do like this whole kind of polling system because it means I do actually get to choose what's coming into the game, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, power to play is definitely really good.
Definitely.
One thing I will say about the poll is we both voted yes. I would say that even if you don't plan on using Legacy, I would vote yes anyway, just because it doesn't really affect the OC that much. Like, I'm sure there will be some, like it will change some stuff. But in terms of like development time as well, there's going to be 3 developers on Legacy out of the, I think they said there are 40 on the content team. So like in terms of content, it's not going to affect it that much. And so really, there's not really much reason to vote against it, even if you're not going to use it. So obviously, like, you can choose what you want, but I would say vote yes, just so like it will definitely bring back small players, and so increasing the player count can't really be a bad idea, really.
Yeah, the other thing is obviously the fact is if it doesn't affect you at all, if you just don't care, like you do enjoy EOC, you just have indifferent, then it is just best to vote for Legacy mode. But obviously just choose what you want to choose. But at the moment, Legacy mode is winning quite significantly. It's something like 72% to 28, whatever it is. So that's pretty cool. So
yeah, I think the poll lasts for 2 or 3 weeks, but it definitely looks like it's going to go through.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully.
I reckon, which is definitely good. And actually, I think before we get into the FAQ, they did also say that they did an EOC survey like a few months ago as well, and Actually, it was kind of split between whether people like the old combat system or the new one. It was like 70. Oh no, it's like 45% for each. So it is quite interesting to see that a lot of people are going for Legacy though, even though sort of like people do like both. But yeah, I think if we just go and talk about the FAQ now. So first one, they're not removing the current combat system. EOC is definitely here to stay, and it just means that Legacy mode will give you a different way of doing combat, I guess. Which is just, it's nice to have variety really, and if people do like pre-OC, then there's that option there.
Yeah, I think it's cool that they're just not going to completely scrap EOC obviously completely, because they obviously have put a lot of time into EOC, and some aspects of the EOC are, I think they're good, to be honest. You have to agree that to do some of the EOC, some of the bosses which have come out of the EOC, like Virago, are really good, and they aren't possible in pre-OC, so you know.
Well, yeah, there are some good aspects. I did actually say to you that I think the best combat system for me would be pre-EOC everything, but with abilities. Like,
Yeah.
So having old life points, old stats, old armor values, but with abilities, I think that would be really quite fun. But yeah, there are some stuff from the EOC that I guess is quite good. But then the same thing, like there's a lot that just isn't enjoyable for me as well. But yeah, EOC is here to stay, and they will continue to improve it. In terms of affecting content and like trying to make Legacy mode, it will take a few months, they said. But like I said, there's only 2 to 3 people working on it, and it won't really affect the ETAs or any major content or anything like that. So there's nothing to worry about there.
Yeah, definitely. So the next question is, would the development of Legacy mode affect other content releases, which is what we've just talked about. But I want to also talk about was the fact that they're not going to be delaying stuff like Elf City and obviously the new Inventor skill, because obviously those staff, they really aren't going to be on that kind of area. They won't be doing other updates. They'll just completely be focusing on Legacy mode, which is cool. Obviously 2 to 3 people is going to take a long time to develop the whole thing, but it does mean that other content won't be kind of hindered because of that.
Yep. So next one is, why are they adding Legacy mode if they're going to improve EOC or stuff like specials? This is actually quite an interesting one, because it, with revolutions and specials, it is fairly pre-EOC-ish, I guess you could say. I mean, it's got that AFK aspect, it's got the specials in it. They said it is just about choice, and even if even a revolution is sort of pre-EOC, it's just not the same thing. Which is why I do want to release a version of the old combat system as well, which is definitely a good thing. Like, I probably would have been happy with revolutions and specs, but I would much prefer Legacy mode now they have actually brought this up, so that's always good as well.
Yeah, because you see, at first I thought Legacy mode was actually just like a run-on from Special Attacks and Revolution, but apparently it's kind of like, it's basically separate ideas. Like, it's not really linked at all, so I was a bit confused about that. But yeah, it is cool that they've decided to bring in Legacy mode, and yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so next one is free accounts to vote. This one I think is just because obviously a lot of players did quit with the release of the EOC. Some people like to argue that it was purely based on bots, the drop of the player count, but I'm sure a lot of people know that wasn't the case. And like the fact that obviously the whole wildy wasn't filled with bots, it was players PKing, so clearly the player count did drop. So they are allowing free-to-play accounts to vote if they were made before 2013, because that was like around the release of the EOC, it was November 2012. Just so like for anyone that did quit, they can vote if they do want Legacy mode, like an old school version of combat. So that's quite good. Like there's nothing really to complain about there, especially because they have put it as like before the EOC. Basically, you have to have your account then. It's always good.
Yeah, so the next part is, will the XP rates be different in Legacy mode compared to EOC? This isn't really massively affecting me. I'm not that bothered about combat XP personally, because obviously we both have like 99 in all of our skills, but it is cool, it is interesting obviously that it's still going to work in the same way as other XP, but obviously depending on how damage is going to work, you won't be able to kill things as quickly using Legacy mode, obviously, because you won't be able to hit as much because abilities are quite strong. So obviously you will be getting less XP per hour. So for training and stuff, I guess Revolution, when it comes out eventually, or just Momentum and abilities, is probably faster than Legacy mode, really. If you're doing
Yeah,
training and
because no
stuff.
one really knows. No one really knows how the damage is going to work, how life points are going to work, though. So it's a bit too early to tell to tell about XP rates. But the one thing I would like back is how XP was based on hits before, rather than like if you actually kill the
Oh
monster.
yeah, yeah.
Because it was cool, like especially in PKing, just seeing those massive XP pop-ups, but also just for training, it was quite nice as well, just to get XP.
Yeah,
all the time.
I think definitely you just reminded me a lot. I really hope they do kind of bring up XP pop-ups if they are going to be bringing back kind of legacy mode, because of Wildy, like PKing, like when you're PKing and you want to bring out some like amazing special, you don't want to like not be able to know what you hit and just have to wait for it. You want to see that like 600 XP and then like Darrox X and 900 or something crazy like that. So, but yeah.
Yeah. So swapping between legacy mode and the EOC, we kind of already answered this. They kind of want to just have a toggle where you can press either legacy or EOC, so you can freely swap. Like as long as you're not in combat, or like you just can't swap to legacy like halfway through.
Okay guys, so the next part is will a player in legacy mode be able to fight a player using EOC? Now, personally, I think that they probably shouldn't actually implement where you can fight someone while on EOC if you're in legacy mode, mainly because I'm not sure how it's going to work really, but the damage is just going to be, the EOC guy will just be able to stun and run, and basically just destroy the guy using legacy mode. Although it might be interesting, I don't know, if they actually sort out the kind of damage ratio and you can use combos like set effects, like Darrox set effects, it might make it a bit more interesting, because the EOC guy, let's say, is using melee abilities and can hit what, 1Ks, 1.5Ks, but then let's say the person on legacy mode can hit like a 7K with the Darrox Great Axe. That would be really cool to see that kind of integration between those two.
Yeah, that is true. And I guess if you are using sort of auto attacks on pre-EOC, you have stuff like barrages, which you can't use with abilities, so you could stun with Ice Barrage or heal with Blood Barrage. So it probably would be uneven, but I guess there are some stuff that you can use that like pre-EOC had that would kind of make it a bit fair.
Yeah, that's true.
But they did say at the bottom here that they might look at having a few game worlds which are tied to each system, so maybe like 5 game worlds for Legacy, 5 for purely EOC, and the rest will be, you'll be able to switch between them. So that could be quite interesting for PKing. I mean, I doubt the EOC worlds would be used for PKing, but the Legacy one is definitely just so like everyone is on level playing field.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea, definitely.
Yeah, so next one is if you can do new bosses like Hellfight King and Virago. So they said that there's certain mechanics which are designed around the evolution of combat, which I guess is true. The main thing in both of them is pretty much just provoke and I guess shield abilities if you want to bomb tank Virago. So they can't really do that for legacy mode. I know, like you said, if they had like just some abilities for legacy, like provoke and insight, that could probably work.
Yeah, I suppose, but it would make stuff like Virago, like the phase 5, trying to get damage. You'd need like 20 guys there, so it'd make it really difficult.
Yeah, it would definitely be a lot harder. Yeah, so that might possibly change, but definitely on release you won't be able to do these new bosses. True. It would just be stuck to like Nex and God Wars, that kind of thing.
Which is a lot of bosses anyway, so it makes it more fun than QED and things like that. So you don't really need all of the new bosses.
Yeah.
Sure. So next is, will the old 138 combat level formula be used, and will old style combat pures and level 3 skillers return? So basically, yes, is what they're trying to say basically here. They're actually going to be, I'm not sure what they're going to do fully, but I think they're probably most likely actually going to bring back 138 across the whole game, aren't they? They're thinking about doing that, not just for Legacy.
Yeah.
They're thinking about bringing back
if they do
EOC.
change the combat formula, they want everyone to have the same combat. Yeah.
That does make sense. It makes it more clean and fresh, and you're not changing combats between each thing. And especially for PKing, 200 combat, just seeing that means nothing. You can have a 200 combat that's
Yeah.
got 99 defense and 99 magic, and then it's just got completely terrible other stats. So it doesn't really make sense to me at the beginning when they created the new 200 combat system. I much preferred the 138. You could actually tell who was close to your level, etc. And it just made it a bit less just completely random, really.
Yeah, and obviously 138 did have flaws, like it was really heavily melee
Yeah.
based, but it is a lot more fair than 200. And I guess for PKing, it did allow a lot of different pures, which really did sort of like, I guess, add variety to the wilderness. And I think the one thing about pures is like, I think in the wilderness anything should go. I think pures should be fine in the wilderness. If you want to do like just proper sort of maxed PKing, there's dual arena, there's clan wars for that kind of thing. So I mean, I don't really see anything wrong with
Yeah,
pures.
exactly.
But I guess 138 will sort of bring back pures and like level 3 skillers, that kind of thing. And they were talking about giving stat resets, because obviously prayer isn't a combat skill, but if they brought back 138, well, currently you can level up prayer without leveling up combat, but with 138 you'd be a higher combat, so they are going to give resets if you want to like reset prayer, so you could be like a level 3 skiller again. So there's not too much of a problem there, really.
Yeah.
So a mix of old and new. So they are considering making some elements of legacy mode customizable. They said some amount of pick and mix is possible. Not quite sure what this actually means, but I guess maybe they are talking about abilities like adding sort of like provoke and insight to legacy. Maybe I don't really know kind of what they're talking about there.
I like
Do you have
I
any
like
idea?
the little phrases they use in these different posts, like pick and mix, and you were saying
Pick
one
and
earlier,
mix.
share and tear.
Yeah.
I'm not sure entirely, but I think it will be just basically something like you will be able to use maybe some defense abilities or something while you're on legacy mode or something like that. They're just going to try and integrate it that way, but that's all I can think of, really.
Yeah, there's always that. Actually, one thing I did think of. Actually, no, that is the next question. The old interfaces, but the reason, like with RS3, I didn't want to include fixed interface because they had to design it for like two. Sort of everything would be designed for like two interfaces. But now they are bringing it back. This might mean they might bring fixed back for RS3, well, like EOC as well, possibly. Because I know a lot of people did like that. The current sort of old school layout just isn't the same at all, really. So possibly this could also hint towards bringing back the fixed layout for EOC as well. Should be quite
I did like the old layout with like all the four things up the top right, weren't they? All going down. Yeah,
around
that was
the map.
cool.
Yeah, that was definitely a lot better. Well, I preferred
true.
that. But it will have stuff like the hero, gear, adventure, and community tab, little bar that we have on RS3. So that will still stay, which I guess, I mean, in terms of fix, that kind of clusters it a bit because there's not really much space on there. But I think if they are bringing back resizable as well, like the old resizable, then that's not really much of a problem. There's a lot of space in that kind of interface.
Yeah, that's true. So next is, couldn't you bring back old servers? I don't know a lot about servers, and honestly, I don't know whether they can or are able to bring back old servers. But they've said they can't. It's not viable. They said it wouldn't be sustainable to maintain two parallel versions, and yeah, I think that's fair enough. They don't have a large like team working on this, so they can't really do loads of different things. And I guess this is one of them, but that doesn't really bother me that much.
Yeah, I mean, like, I guess it depends how this plays out. I guess old servers would be the best option in terms of like fully bringing back pre-OC, but depending on how legacy mode is, I guess this is the next best thing. Best thing, and this doesn't matter too much. So can you just roll? Well, can't you just roll back EOC?
That's similar to the last one, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. The answer is no. Just because, I guess I kind of touched this earlier with the poll, in terms of like half the player base like EOC, half don't. The fact is there are people that do like EOC, so they're not going to roll it back just for the half that don't, which is why they are trying to like build the two systems in one kind of thing. So yeah, EOC is not going to be removed.
And pretty much second to last is how will legacy mode impact old school? I think this is a strange question because I just think it's not going to affect old school at all. Many people still will play on
Yeah.
old school. I think the old school counter will drop significantly because most of the old school players are more. I'm not gonna generalize it, but most of the old school players do say that they preferred 2011 servers, and 2007 was kind of like a midway between EOC and 2011 on how fun they found the
Yeah.
game. So I think the definitely the player counter will drop significantly. But yeah, it's not going to affect the people who play old school, so they'll just continue playing that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, again, it just depends how close legacy mode
Yeah,
is
that's
to
true. Yeah, that's
pre-EOC,
true. True.
because the main reason people play old school is because it is pre-EOC combat. Like for me personally, I do play it a lot for pre-EOC, but also just the fact that like skills are actually hard and worth training. XP isn't handed out. There's no like Squeal of Fortune, that kind of thing, which I'm sure a lot of people play it for that reason as well. There's a lot more achievements. So I think having legacy mode isn't gonna impact old school too much. I think like I watched a Sparkmap video today where he said that if legacy mode is good, he would actually come back to RS3. So yeah, you never know. I mean, like YouTubers like that who just play to PK, they might go back to RS3, but there are other reasons to play old school, so I doubt it would impact it too
Yeah,
heavily,
that's
really.
true.
So last one. Will you need to create a new account to use legacy mode? And straight off, no. It is just using your existing account. It is built into the game, so there's no like restarting or anything. So that is the FAQ really. Last thing I really want to talk about is just like how it's kind of gonna work, because a lot of things, like they said in the FAQ, what we've been talking about in trying to bring back pre-EOC or legacy mode is that it runs alongside with EOC, and the problem with that is, well, like how does that actually work? Because in like legacy mode, are we still gonna have like 10k life points and like accuracy, like attack, strength, defense doing very little in terms of combat? Like I'm not really sure how that stuff would work, and like how prayers used to be 100% protection against like most monsters. If they could bring that kind of thing back, because otherwise it just seems like momentum with specials,
Yeah,
really.
exactly.
So I'm not really quite sure like how successful this will be. Like if it is just sort of using auto attacks, there's not really much use for it. That's the problem.
Yeah.
One thing I was thinking of is like having instances for legacy mode for bosses, so you could actually like fight Nex pre-EOC kind of thing, using old armor stats like Nex's old health and damage, that kind of thing. That could kind of bring the pre-EOC aspect into it, but I don't really know like what else they could do really.
Yeah, that's true. I think the other thing is they really need to think about some of the rebalancing. Definitely bringing back set effects which actually work. They really, if they want to bring back old school kind of PKs, the kind of guys who are not back in like 2010, 2011, people who love to go in and have like whip fights and stuff like that, and then use like Darok's axe and like hit 800s and stuff. Those kind of people, you've got to like rebalance the kind of set effects on some of the Barrow's armors. You need to make specs definitely better, because at the moment, looking at the beta, the specs are just kind of useless, to be honest. They're just an extra kind of 25% adrenaline that you use, and they don't even hit that high. So especially something like claws, before you could pretty much KO a person, and now a claw spec hits like 30 or something. It's
if it actually
really
hits,
ridiculous. They definitely need to kind of rebalance some stuff, but it does look promising, I have to say.
Yeah, and they also said they want to make it competitive with EOC, and so that means they want to bring in stuff like dual wielding for Legacy, which I don't really know how I feel about that. I mean, I could get past it, but I think one of the great things about pre-EOC was that if you were tanking, you would use like a Divine or a Spirit Shield. If you were DPSing, you would go for a Defender. And with dual wielding, it's going to be dual wielding all the way. Like, you kind of remove that variety. which is a bit of a shame. So I understand why they're doing that, because you can't do the same DPS with like a Drago and a Defender, but it's not really pre-EOC then. Like, it kind of removes that variety
Yeah.
that you used to have.
The other thing is, I just don't know how people are going to be able to. I'm not sure how they're going to be doing it with like, just like if you're fighting next and you're using pre-EOC, I just don't know how they're going to be able to do it, because you just can't hit that high. You can't hit like 40,000 HP per phase and 200,000 altogether on next, let's say, using pre-EOC stuff, because the attack stars were slow, and things were just generally slower. I'm not sure how they're going to do it. It will make next kills a lot longer, I guess, I suppose, but I'm not sure how they're going to be doing it. I guess we'll just have to look forward to how they're going to fix that and basically just rebalance some skills, to be honest.
Yeah, I think that probably definitely means that life points will stay the same then, just because next can hit like 3k now, whereas like pre-EOC 99 Constitution and max in like next sets you didn't even have that much life points. So
but she did hit less, obviously. It was in proportion. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's why. But I guess you'd have to have like the 10k life points now, just to survive that kind of thing. But I think that is basically all there is to talk about, really.
I think, lastly, I just wanted to say, this is obviously really exciting. I can't wait for what they're going to do with it, and not just because, like, not just because I want them to bring it back, but it's just really interesting that they're actually kind of finally listening to the community and actually making new updates are actually quite interesting, rather than just the kind of same old boring stuff that they normally do, which is squeal a fortune and then bring a couple of bosses out in a year. So I think this is really going to be quite a good update, hopefully, when they do tweak it. And I'm definitely going to be voting different polls to shape how it's going to update, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, like, the amount of stuff they've done this year, like power to the players,
exactly.
this, and just some good content, is definitely looking good for the start of the year. I guess that is it. Leave your feedback on what you think of Legacy in the description or the comments. Hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll see you later.
Bye guys.